So much. All right, so now is the time for us to praise God. And, oh my, don't you hate it when you have this time when things go a little bit? That's when you have to be prayed up, because then you don't get off center, right? So, make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that has made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. Psalm 100. So a minister and a priest and a rabbi went for a walk. They went for a hike one day, and it was very hot. They were sweating and exhausted, and they came upon a lake. Well, it was very secluded, so they thought, well, they took off their clothes and they jumped in. It was very refreshing. They were swimming around, and then they saw there were some berries over there. So they just decided to climb out and go for these berries. And as they were crossing a little open space, a bunch of ladies from the town appeared. And so the minister and the priest covered their privates, and the rabbi covered his face as they ran for cover. So once they had all gotten dressed, the minister and the priest asked the rabbi, "Why did you cover your face?" And he said, "Well, I don't know about your congregation, but my congregation recognizes me by my face." That's a joyful noise. Laughter. Laughter is a joyful noise. We are made in the image and likeness of God, it is said, and so we are humorous because God is humorous. Anybody who has a long-term relationship with God, an ongoing close relationship with God, knows that God has a great sense of humor. So a joyful noise, laughter is a joyful noise. Music is a joyful noise. It lifts us up. It brings us out of wherever we might be into a place of unity. Music is a universal language. We can appreciate the music even if we don't understand the language. I heard opera for years, and I didn't know what they were saying, but it was so beautiful. And then I heard they were saying, "Oh, this place is a dump," Somehow it lost the romance, but that's what they were saying, So, but yeah, music is wonderful. But like everything in life is on a continuum. We have the joy, and then we have the sadness. We have the harmony, and then we have the discordant. It's all in the mix because we are free, we have the availability of the entire range of every continuum. And the thing about it is for us to know that we have a choice. We can choose to feel sad. There are times when it is absolutely appropriate to feel sad. And there are times when things are discordant. But it's our choice how long we get to stay in the sad place or the discordant place. We have the choice. We have the choice to move. Because we are thinking beings. We are choosing beings. I was reading Teilhard de Chardin, and he uses the word noosphere. It's a part of our evolution, a part of our evolution is that we started out with the geosphere. That's inanimate matter. All the volcanoes and the earth that started out in our evolutionary process. And then there's the biosphere, all the living things, all the plants and all the animals and the fish in the sea, all of that, the biosphere, and we're part of the biosphere. But then we began to not only think, but to realize that we did think and that we could think beyond our circumstances, beyond the biosphere, and that we could actually change the biosphere through our actions. We could change if we were going to stay cold or warm, or we didn't have to live freezing all the time. Even in the cold weather, we could find sources of heat and warmth, and so we could shift our experience, and we found that we could actually then blend metals to make things stronger, so that we could have stronger things to aid us. So we were evolving from the geosphere to the biosphere to what's called the noosphere, and the noosphere is all about consciousness. It's all about evolving our consciousness. And I talk about this all the time. For the last month, I was talking about, evolving our consciousness of love and expanding our consciousness of peace. And so we are evolving. And whether we want to or not, consciously or unconsciously, and we would like to be part of the conscious evolutionary process. And this conscious evolutionary process is what brought us into things like music and philosophy and education and law and government, and all of these things evolved out of this consciousness, out of this noosphere. But Teilhard de Chardin, and if you don't know him, he is a priest, he's a paleontologist, and he's also a philosopher. And he said that love was the principal driver of this consciousness. That love is the principal driver of this consciousness in its evolution. So we're connecting again, once again, with the love within us to guide us on this evolutionary path. In terms of music, we're born with an innate desire to experience or participate in music. I remember getting in trouble for whistling in line in the first grade. But the music was in me, and I had learned how to whistle, and I was just whistling and being joyful. And but that was not appropriate in that place. And laughter, I love those videos of babies laughing. They just crack me up. Because, there's this one where the guy is shredding paper and the baby is just hysterically laughing as he's shredding the paper. And, because it's just a bubbling up. It's a joyful noise. It doesn't come from anything, negative or, like in the Bible. I was looking up love in the Bible. A lot of it is, not love, but laughter in the Bible. I was looking at laughter, and a lot of it is scornful laughter. I was like, oh, scornful laughter? I don't think so. We want joyful laughter, laughter that just bubbles out of us, that we just resonate with something and it just bubbles right out. So coming to realize that we have available to us this joy and this love and this harmony. So Barbara Marx Hubbard is a futurist, and she's all about conscious evolution. She is all about how do we consciously evolve to get away from these kinds of consciousnesses that are bringing us into chaos and violence and all the things we really don't want to have in the world. And the thing is, it seems that when we claim something for ourselves, when we say, I claim love in my life, then everything that is unloving shows itself so that I may be aware of it and bring love to it. So in this time, we see a lot of chaos and violence and wars and threats of wars and all of these things. And at the same time, there is this big movement for peace and for unity. And, I just came from that Parliament of the World's Religions where there were 10,000 people from all of these different cultures and all of these different religions coming together to say, yes, peace, yes, sustainability, yes, compassion, yes, justice. All of us together saying yes to that which brings us closer together, to that unity and the peace that is the truth of our being. But as we raise that up, everything unlike it comes up to say, oh yeah, and we have to say, yeah! But we have to say it in a way that isn't forcing it. It's a way, we have to evolve into a different way of communicating, of listening to one another, not just speaking at each other, but truly listening to what's going on and listening not just to the words that are being said, but to the underlying feelings. And letting someone talk long enough so that underlying feeling comes up and we find out what's really going on here. We find out about the fear. We find out about the unworthiness. We find out about the not enoughness. We find out about the lack and the limitation that's underlying what appears to be anger and frustration and all of these things. So we're being called to evolve our consciousness. And I know that the group that gets together on Monday afternoons, there's a Barbara Marx Hubbard pod group that gets together here on Monday afternoons. And they're on a sacred journey. She has a class, Barbara Marx Hubbard has a class called The Sacred Journey of the Conscious Evolutionary. And she said it begins with a shift in your whole world view so you see with the eyes of evolution itself. I don't know what that means, but it's interesting. So you see with the eyes of evolution itself, which means you see with that intelligence behind evolution. And you tune in to where it's headed. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The journey deepens through expanding your identity beyond the ego to living from your true essence, which we know is love. It accelerates as you enter a sacred communal chrysalis to undergo a true metamorphosis of body and soul. So it's about being in groups of people, in circles of people. This is why we started our circles, so we could get into circles of people who care about each other. And we don't want them to be cliques. We don't want them to be, just, that's why we advertise, join this circle, come to this circle. And grow this circle, because we want people to get to know one another, to experience one another, and to together open to this evolutionary possibility, to open to seeing one another as more than our human selves, to connect with each other as our divine selves. She's been a part of it, is encouraging the formation of pods of people who are willing to embark on an evolutionary journey. This pod formation is deeper than she has ever experienced, where she feels that each individual's essence and soul purpose connect and co-create on the inner plane with such brilliance and revelation that it feels as though the pod is forming a new membrane of intelligence, like a multi-human whole, far greater than the sum of its parts. Now that idea really caught me, the idea of a new membrane of intelligence. In the Indian tradition, there is Indra's net, all of these shining essences connected in a net. And so when I thought of this membrane of individual consciousnesses connecting in new ways, so thinking about if you saw, like a fisherman's net with the little floaty bulbs in it, that there are these little floaty bulbs, and each of us is a little floaty bulb of light, and each of us is connected by all of these threads to every other little bulb of light, and all of us together having a high intention to raise our awareness to come into a realization of, as Richard was saying, Christ consciousness. The consciousness that knows that we are one, not just with one another. We're one with one another, and we're also one with the evolutionary intelligence that we call God, or spirit, or universe, or whatever we call it, that we're one with that, and we're in tune with it, and we're listening to what it's guiding us to, and we're moving in that direction, whatever it is. We're moving in that direction, whatever it is. And we're making a joyful noise along the way. So, the definition of heaven. In heaven, and this is a very Eurocentric definition, the cooks are French, the policemen are English, the mechanics are German, the lovers are Italian, and the bankers are Swiss. In hell, the cooks are English, the police are German, the mechanics are French, the lovers are Swiss, and the bankers are Italian. So Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive. It is not the strongest of the species that survive. It is not the most intelligent. But those who are most responsive to change. Those who are most responsive to change. So everything is changing. We know this all the time. It's about how comfortable are we with the changes in our governments, in our bodies, in our awareness, in our consciousness. Are we being responsive to these changes? Are we opening to a greater realization of the wholeness that is? The internet, to me, is the outpicturing of this opportunity for everybody to communicate with everybody. And some of those communications are really joyous and fulfilling and uplifting, and some of them are really terrible and depressing and the thing is, if you want to see the state of the world, it's all there. It's all there now. We don't get filtered news. We get the news from somebody's phone in the midst of something. We don't get the meaning that someone has given it. We just get there it is. We get to make the meaning. We get to make the meaning. So we get to make it. We get to make it a learning experience, or we get to make it something to get angry about, or something to get upset about, but is it part of the evolution? Are we making whatever is happening part of this evolutionary process? Because that's what it is. It's all part of this evolutionary process. So we're just willing to go along with it. We're willing to tune into it. We're willing to say, I don't like this. I don't like this that's happening. And yet, it's happening. So how can I respond in a way that is life-giving and uplifting? How can I transform whatever this is into something that gives more life, that brings more joy, that brings that joyous noise into expression? Because that's how I want the world to be, in that place of sharing laughter and music and food and friends and family and joy. So Moses, Jesus, and another guy were playing golf. Moses pulled up the tee and drove a long one. Or pulled up to the tee and drove a long one. It landed on the fairway but rolled directly towards a water trap. Quickly Moses raised his club, the water parted, and it rolled to the other side. Safe and sound. Next, Jesus strolled up to the tee and hit a nice long one directly toward the same water trap. It landed directly in the center of the pond and kind of hovered over the water. Jesus casually walked out on the pond and chipped it onto the green. The third guy got up and sort of randomly whacked the ball. It headed out over the fence and onto oncoming traffic on a nearby street. It bounced off a truck and hit a tree nearby. From there, it bounced onto the roof of a nearby shack and rolled down into the gutter, down the downspout, out onto the fairway, and right towards the aforementioned pond. On the way to the pond, it hit a little stone, bounced out over the water and onto a lily pad where it rested quietly. Suddenly, a very large bullfrog jumped up on the lily pad, snatched the ball in his mouth. Just then, an eagle swooped down, grabbed the frog, flew away, and as they passed over the green, the frog squealed with fright, dropped the ball, and bounced right into the hole for a beautiful hole-in-one. Moses then turned to Jesus and said, "I hate playing with your dad." Angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. I'm going to end with a reading from Ernest Holmes. Evolution has brought man to a point of self-expression, and it can do no more for him until he consciously cooperates with it. Its law is one of growth and unfoldment. God goes forth anew into creation whenever anyone discovers a new truth or increases knowledge about an old one. Each is a center of the all, and each has access to the all through his own nature. Jesus refers to his joy on the eve of his great lesson to mankind, that joy which is full and complete, that joy which no man can take away, the joy of a sense of completion. He was about to lay down his earthly life as the greatest object lesson ever taught. And what was this lesson? That love knows no bounds, and that the eternal goodness gives itself to all. God as man, in man, is man. And so our affirmation for this week is, I sing praises for all the good in my life. I sing praises for all the good in my life. I sing praises for all the good in my life. I sing praises for all the good in my life. And so it is.